Thank you, Andrea. And I think we're still waiting on Pita, the film director, to join us so we can get started, and hopefully she'll join us in a few minutes here. So thank you everyone for joining us today for this virtual conversation. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the ASU Art Museum is located on the Tempe campus, which sits on the ancestral homelands of the Akimel O'odham and Pipash peoples. And as Andrea just mentioned, the video La Morena is currently screening in one of our galleries at the museum this week through Saturday. So you have just a few days left to see it. It's part of pilot projects, which includes local, national, and international artists. We're doing one video per week for 8 weeks. So we hope that you can join us at the museum for the next video series. All of the artists in this series, their work addresses racial and social justice issues through their own unique lenses and life experiences. So if you'd like to reserve a free admission ticket, please visit our website for more information. So I want to quickly give you a bio for our guest Lucinda today. We're joined by Lucinda Hinojos, whose artist name is La Morena. She is a community activist through her art and uses the term artivist. So we can talk about that in a little bit. She is Chicana, Pima, Apache, and Yaqui descent, and is a self-taught, nationally known muralist and painter based in Phoenix. And you can see her large-scale paintings on several structures all around town. She's worked with many immigrant rights organizations, such as Colibri Center for Human Rights and Colors of La Comunidad, which I believe you founded, Lucinda. So welcome so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know that everyone is busy and we're in an odd situation where we would love to meet in person, but we have to meet over Zoom. So thank you for adapting to your schedule to our schedules and meeting us over Zoom today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here and that you're showing the La Morena short film in ASU. Yeah, I think when we first started, when I met Pita, we talked about the idea because I wanted to document what I was doing. I wanted to document the project, Colors of La Comunidad, and I had no idea that it was, I just didn't know, I didn't think that the video would just like take off the way it has been, because it was only 3 minutes, and I like to say a lot, and I felt like I wanted to capture it so much, and it kind of did, it did in this short film for 3 minutes. And then the reaction of community was overwhelming, and now it's been published in LA Times, and it's now at ASU, which is a huge honor to me. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to screen a trailer for the film. It's a 40-second trailer, and I encourage everyone, if they'd like to see the full film, you can see it in person at the museum, or you can go to the website. We'll put it in the chat here and purchase it. And it's $10 to own a copy of it, and a portion of the proceeds do go to Poder in Action. So I'm going to first screen the trailer, and then I'll ask if you can tell us a little bit about how the project started. Okay. So let me just share my screen here.
So the power of art to me is
Brittany, you're muted.
Sorry about that, everyone. Can you hear now?
So the power of art to me is painting murals that unite communities, or bring people together, that tell stories and educate and heal people. We are demanding that with this mural that we want change. We want families to remain together and not separated.
Yay.
So can you tell us a little bit about this particular mural project? I know you've done so many projects, and this one in particular is just one of many, but can you talk about how it started?
Yeah, so this project is actually for the project I founded, which is Colors de la Comunidad. And we wanted to do something for the 10th year anniversary that was coming up at the time, is for SB 1070. So I had reached out to Lucha to kind of collaborate and get a mural funded. The wall owner is actually the office of Alex Navidad, who is an immigration lawyer. And it was like perfect timing because he reached out and he wanted for me to commission me a mural regarding this topic. But he had some of the funding, and then I thought, well, we can collaborate and do a Colors de la Comunidad project and have Lucha sponsor the remaining amount so we can put this together. And so we had planned to do a series of murals. We got the first one done. The second one was supposed to be in Tucson. And then we had a workshop to have another mobile mural going inside the Arizona State Capitol, but then COVID happened, and then the project has now been postponed and paused for just a moment, till we get through this. And so we wanted to document this, the mural, and Lucha reached out to Mango Skies, but I happened to meet Pita through a mutual friend, and we were talking and going back and forth, and then it ended up being like, hey, it's the same people. And so I was like, what the heck? So it was pretty cool how it happened. And then they started filming, and we first wanted it to be a little bit longer, but due to the funding, we decided to do it in just 3 minutes, and yeah, and now we're here.
And Pita has joined us, so I also want to introduce you. You're a filmmaker, journalist, and political communication strategist. Pita is a queer immigrant woman from Guatemala who works to uplift the stories of marginalized people through effective and compelling storytelling, including youth, people of color, and other communities whose voices aren't heard. And her artistry and insight have successfully built bridges among communities through her storytelling. And her work has been featured in National Geographic, CNN Latino, Remezcla, NPR, and Univision. So thank you so much, Pita, for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry I'm late. I was having technical difficulties. Still getting, so we've been in the COVID for so long, and I'm still getting the Zoom life.
I don't think we'll ever get fully used to it. I hope we don't get used to it.
Yeah.
So can you talk about how you met Lucinda and why you're interested in this project?
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. I'm super excited that Lucinda, I forget that her name is Lucinda because I always call her La Morena, is getting so much highlight from Phoenix and Arizona and the community. When I met her, like she was saying, it all kind of came together. So it was really, really meant to be. We met through mutual friends that are in the movement where, immigrant rights movement, women rights movement, and just having those awesome mutual people in our lives. It was, bound to happen that we were going to meet. And she had told me that she was working on this really big piece in downtown Phoenix. And I think it was like one of the first ones that was like really politically connected. The other murals are just as beautiful and have just like, really powerful messages. But I think it was like a good like footstep into getting into more politics, as everything around us is politics. And this year definitely has, demonstrated with the Black Lives Matter and just everything that is happening around us, that we can't be silenced. And I think that art is makes this revolution so attractive. And we've seen it now in social media, where you have, you know, memes, you have artists who are doing screen paintings, you have artists who are doing animations, you have, you know, we're doing a part of another collaborative where it's like 60-second films about voting and murals. So it's so cool to see the beautiful expressions and voices and through art. And I hope that we continue to do more of this. And I am super happy and honored that I get to collaborate with Lucinda on a project that's so special and so of the moment. Being from Arizona, I'm an immigrant, but I'm also a Phoenician. I've been in Phoenix my whole life. And I love seeing my city painted by dope murals that are not just something, you know, to draw on the wall, but it's like it's a statement, and a really powerful statement. These murals can be there forever. They're conversation starters. I mean, they're beautiful to look at, but I also think that these murals can also be a big part of how we move forward. I just gave a lecture at ASU this week on students who are writing stories based on murals with statements because of La Morena. So it's so cool, you know, it's like we're like transforming everything because now we're in this digital life. And it's like, go do something creative. And this film and the artists that are in Phoenix are certainly demonstrating their expressions of power. And I hope that as a filmmaker and as a storyteller, that I'm able to uplift all the people around me, and dope people like Lucinda, who is like a survivor of domestic violence, was a single mom, a woman, a Latina woman. And so there's so many marginalized identities, and it's just like, you know, here we are living our best lives doing art and expressing our voices that way.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think that, you know, muralism in a lot of ways similar to printmaking can be such a democratic medium, and it has this very rich history. So it's incredible to see, particularly at this moment in 2020 right now, this sort of incredible activity of muralism and all of these images being spread through social media, and it having such a positive effect and really leading to change, like activism, like you're saying. So I have some photos of the mural. If you don't mind, I can share them, and maybe we can just talk about the design of the mural and how you came up with the design. So I'm gonna share my screen again.
Also, I want to just give a shout out to Lucinda that it was 120 degrees while she was out doing this mural, and she's so high up because it's a tall building. I have no idea. And before, this is before COVID, she was already wearing that huge mask. She was ready.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, you know.
And it was so hot. We had to turn off our cameras because it was too hot for it. So just thinking of that, it made me go back to that moment and just thinking, oh my God, it was so hot.
It was.
And can everyone see the image of the mural on the screen?
No, we're just seeing your screen with the screenshots of the.
Oh, okay, I see. Let me try it again. So I was going to ask, do you conceive of your murals from, do you paint the people from real people that you know in your life, or are they sort of like representational?
It's both. Some of my fine art is real people, real stories. Like I've met them and they've been told their stories. Or I work a lot with Nick Oza, who's a photojournalist from the Arizona Republic and USA Today. And then like in this mural, Humanity Over Hate is with the wall owner or the business owner wanted to name it. And so for this one, I just used photos for representation. It's not a specific person. And I do it like that because I don't want to focus on just this one person. I want to just kind of, we don't know this, I don't know who the actual person is. I did use a photo that I found, and then built this mock-up. And I had given the Alex Navidad, who owns the building, a couple other mock-ups. But he was feeling more, he wanted to see the border wall, he wanted to see a sad migrant child, he wanted the portrait to really have some emotion with it. And so we came up with this mock-up together. And then I added the hummingbirds just because it's kind of my signature. Mm-hmm. So I added the hummingbirds, and I kind of struggled with the layout because of the border wall and the portrait, but I kind of shaped it with the hummingbirds. And yeah, and then Alex Navidad loved it, and he said that it reminded him of when he was younger, because his mother was a migrant, and the little girl looked like, it made him think of her when she was little, and the boy represented him when he was little. And I was like, oh, it was interesting how that kind of went in sync with each other, so that was interesting for me to find out or learn from him.
And do you, when you are conceiving of doing this large scale mural, do you paint it first on a smaller scale or draw it, or do you just sort of map it out on the building?
So I kind of do it, I use Photoshop and I use my iPad, and I put the images together. And then either I will freehand it and sketch it, like I'll mark up the wall, and then I'll sketch it, which I did with this one. The only thing, or if I'm on a short time, and I will use projection. And so for the portrait, I used projection, and then for the remaining, I just freehanded it. Yes. So yeah, I found, I think somebody was asking, like, what is my process? I saw a question. Mm-hmm. What is your process of making? Yeah, so that's what I do. I kind of what some of my process behind the murals and the work that I do. I know people don't really see the behind the scenes, but I do a lot of research. I'm learning, interviewing, I'm photographing, I'm piecing together. I put a lot of energy and thought into what I do. And then I laid out into the wall, like I said, either projected or sketched on the freehand, depending on my how much time I have. And then I use aerosol. Well, first I use latex house paint, so I kind of roll it on there, and then I use aerosol to do the final details. Yeah.
So Pita, did you get to witness this whole process from start to finish?
Yeah, and I learned a lot from the sketching and everything that she's talking about. I have never been, a part of from the very beginning where she started an outline to we saw it till the very end through the film, and just wanted to get a little bit of everything. I'm curious too. One of the questions that I've had is just murals have gone from being street art to now, institutions like ASU and the art museum, having something like La Morena and saying, muralists and murals, this is art, and it also goes into a museum. And I'm just so happy that we're there and that we're really able to respect the art that is also in these murals. Because for so long, I think of so many people that I've met that were doing graffiti, and all those artists that we kind of just left out because it was just graffiti or it's just street art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and then when you think about graffiti artists from the 80s and or early 90s, they're in museums now. but at the time, they would just be painted over in the subway.
Exactly. Yeah,
so I think it's a major shift. Can you all talk some more about how you've collaborated with different organizations like Poder in Action? I know that Dr. Angeles Maldonado was quoted in the video. Can you talk about that process at all?
Yeah, Angeles is also an ASU professor and focuses a lot of her research on immigration, migration, and undocumented folks. And so we wanted to work with her on terms of a little bit of the messaging of, right? So like giving this film a little bit of a call to action of like, what do we do now, right? Like, here's a problem, here's a painting, we're bringing awareness to this issue, and then what do you do now? So I think that's really important to us. She's somebody I use a lot in my films as my expert, because she is an expert, and I focus a lot on issues of, again, you know, voices that we just don't hear from most of the time. And then the collaboration with the organizations, I mean, like Lucinda said, there's a lot of organizations who are doing really great work in Arizona, from minimum wage to police brutality, and now are incorporating art. And it's so cool to see those two come together. I think in the past, I had not seen as much of it, and we're seeing it more and more now. And I think that it's really cool to use all those digital platforms that they have, and then also to really like showcase that, you know, that this is another way to express your activism, you know, whatever message you have, and really using the film, Lucinda, as somebody to look up to, and you have all this like youth who are making really cool stuff happen, and they don't know where to put it, they don't know how to start, they don't know how to make money off of it, you know, they don't know a lot of these unknowns. And we're hoping that with this movie they showcase that you can still be an activist and you can do it through art, and that's cool. And all these different things that we can help and network. And that's what's been really great about the collaborations with Poder. And I know I won't say more, but like I know that Lucinda will start another project with them, and just with Lucha, who was a part of this from the very beginning. You know, these are organizations that are built off of youth and young people who are super young, and we want to continue to engaging with them, and then also inspiring them to create cool things with the issue in mind, whether that's a GIF or GIF, I don't know what the right term is there, or movies or anything. And I'm super happy that art is being centered when it comes to these you know, human rights issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that actually brings up a point that I wanted to ask Lucinda, which is, do you feel like you have creative freedom when you're painting your murals? Or do you feel like because they're in this very public realm, you have any sort of restrictions placed on you when you're conceiving of the imagery in your murals?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of censorship that is implemented in my murals. And I was reflecting on this because I've been talking about it lately, and these are past interviews, is that I am censored, you know, and it's like, I think about it and it kind of frustrates me. But I learned how to shift that and still get a message across, where I'm doing cultural decorative art, I would say, and then bring in that messaging. So still saying what I want to say, but in a different form where it's not so radical. So you know, it's more me anyways. I'm like, you know, I don't, you know, think too negative on it. I'm still getting the message across, you know. But yes, I do get censored, and I have to, there's times I have to change up mock-ups and, you know, just figure out another way to get the messaging out. And yeah, but I was also thinking that, you know what, you may be censored in the public view, like with your murals, but I have all the freedom in my canvas work. So I'm like, you know what, let's just take it there.
I was just thinking the same thing. And I'm like, I want to see all of your canvases at home. What didn't make it on the murals, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so part of this mural, part of the meaning and significance behind it is actually the location. I mean, you're very deliberate with where this immigration office building is located. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was so excited when Alex wanted to do this. I actually was in that show with ACLU of Arizona at the ASU. We had the exhibit there. And so Alex Navidad found my work there. And when he told me the location of where the wall was in, I was like, no way. I was like, on the one-way street where we protest in March by the Arizona Capitol. So I was like so excited. Even when I was painting, I would walk to the corner and I'm like, I see them, Arizona, I see. You know, really taking, I'm such a dork, but it's just like, it was really exciting for me because I could already see, you know, like how like people's reaction, and I just had attended recently a protest for Vanessa Guillen, and what has you know, there was a protest for her, and we were walking from Phoenix headquarters, and then we started walking down, and sure enough, we're walking past my mural, and I get to see people running up to the wall and taking pictures of it, and journalists running up to the wall and taking pictures, and then getting back in line. I'm like, oh my God. And then I seen Alex Navidad outside watering the plants, and I was like, oh my God, this is what's happening? And he's like, yup, I sure do. So I was really cool to see that, and I was like, oh man, this is the best. But yeah.
Yeah, it was just brilliantly placed, and it just makes it so much more, even more powerful, you know, for people being on that particular building.
Right.
I wanted to also ask, because of COVID and the quarantine that we've been in, you know, all of your projects seem to be very community-based and community-oriented. You are always working with a group of people.
Right.
How has this changed for you in the last, you know, 6 months when everything is locked down and, you know, there are all these new restrictions placed on you?
So when COVID happened, I was gonna go to Las Vegas, to LA, to South Dakota. Like I had all these projects lined up. I had to get a mural done in Tucson, and then I had all these things lined up, and then it was gone. And I was like, oh, and I was like, oh my God, did I manifest that to happen? Because I was like, how am I gonna do this, you know? And so I kind of, when COVID hit, I honestly didn't do anything for 2 weeks. I kind of like took a step back and reflected on like what's really happening, and to be present with myself and my kids and my family. So I really didn't move much. But then, you know, as more weeks started going by, I lost about 12 jobs, and projects got canceled on me.
Wow.
But thank God I had a savings, and I survived. And then I started utilizing my website. So that hustler mode turned on. I said, I can do this, but how am I going to do this? You know, what can I do from home? So I'm sponsored by GoDaddy. They're amazing. And so they kind of guided me and helped me. And I started utilizing my website and pushing that. And so that kind of took off. And then I did get reached out, you know, people were reaching out to me for murals, and I was like, I see my peers getting out, then I was like, ugh, I don't know what to do. And then the uprising started happening, and I was like, oh my God. So we really have to move, form an art collective. The art collective was like, we got to go put banners up. And I was like, how am I going to do this? So masks on, we did what we could. And it was really like, really restraining. But then it's like, my heart was like, we gotta push, and you know what, we'll be okay, we'll be all right, because there's something, this is, whatever's happening needs, we then artists become essential, then we become essential workers, you know, because this messaging needs to get out to people, what we're doing, and so important right now. And now we're still in COVID, but things are, you know, a little bit lighter, and I do have projects coming up this October, mural projects with Go There in Action. It's a police brutality mural. I'm really excited about that because I have worked with the mothers of the victims that have been killed by Phoenix PD, Tempe Police Department. Got to know the moms, and it was such a healing circle for all of us. And so we designed this mock-up, and that's going to be in October. And then I have another project after that. So it's really exciting to get back and move again with these murals.
Will both of those projects be in Phoenix?
Yeah, both of them are in Phoenix.
Okay. And so that's my next question. Like, what, for both of you, what are your next projects on your horizon? What are you working on right now? What are some of the paintings that you're working on right now, Lucinda? And maybe Pita, you can talk about, I really want to ask you about your documentary, You Racist, Sexist Bigot.
Yeah, I'll let her go first. We all weave into the same type of work.
Currently right now I'm working from home. Behind me I'm working on a canvas for, his name is MC Magic. He's a rapper from the 90s, 2000. I used to be a fan. Like I listened to his music as a teenager. So I'm like, MC Magic hit me up. I was like, oh my God. So this is what I'm working on. And then I have another commission piece that I'm working on. It's like a 6'5'4". I have that. And then I'm working with the art collective. We're doing some smaller projects. And then Colors de la Comunidad, we're going to be regrouping so we can get out into Tucson and get that mobile mural going. And then Poder in Action. And then this big building on like 7th Street, Missouri. It's like a 4-story building, so pretty big. And that project is a commission, and it's regarding like, because I always say like we don't know each other, but we need each other. So I kind of pitched that to him because then, especially because in the times that we're in, he just wants to, he needs something to like just like a breath of fresh air, you know, like we can do this. And I'm like, yes. So that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, so for me, I think, we're trying to get the La Morena. We premiered it digitally. So we had a lot of plans with the film, with film festivals across the country. And because of COVID, a lot of those were canceled. But we didn't want to sit on this film that seemed so about, in the moment that we were living. And so we put it out digitally, and half of the proceeds, like you talked about, we're collaborating with Poder in Action, which is an organization that we're close friends with and are doing really great work in the community. And so you can go to La Morena on Vimeo on demand. That's where the film is. The movie is only 3 minutes short, I should say. I've never done a film so short. And I really love it because it gets like just straight into, Lucinda, the mural, and here's what we can do next. And it was a really fun film, and just like I have like a whole new friend for life. And that's what's so great about making films, because you spend so much time with these people and really not making it a transactional relationship. That's never what I want to do in films, but really getting to know who they are. And honestly, for me, the film, like there were some days that we couldn't film and I would just go paint the little butterflies. That's all me. So it was super fun, and I hope that a lot of people get to see it. And what's great about it is that it's so short. We have such like short attention spans now. So we've had a lot of people, watch the film, and a lot of really great reviews. And I think what's so cool is that we've been able to have these discussions, and Lucinda has gone to like art classes right now with everything being virtual, and her talking to young students in their art classes, and to be this like brown woman who's so proud and doing murals and making it a movie is such a cool new tool that we're able to share with students, artists, institutions, organizations. And then my other film that premieres on Sunday is called You Racist, Sexist Bigot. And to Lucinda's point of like, we don't know each other, but we need each other. That film really touches on really being in uncomfortable conversations and relatable stories of just people in the whole state of Arizona, and how they're discriminated, and how we really just need to have more conversations and get to know our neighbors, because we all just really need each other, especially at this time right now. The name of that movie is You Racist, Sexist Bigot. And I'm super, super excited. And you can find all that on my Instagram, which is at PitaJS. And I have all the links there for both La Morena and You Racist, Sexist Bigot.
And that premieres this Sunday?
Yeah, this Sunday. And La Morena has been out, and we want everybody to just rent it, download it, and share it.
Yes.
You made a really good point there too about this 3-minute film being such a approachable way to share this artwork with young people. And I wonder, Lucinda, if you can give advice to any young artists who are interested in doing, art activism, and you're incredibly successful and very business savvy. And what advice would you give the younger generation of artists who want to sort of follow in your footsteps?
I think early on, I wish I would have known that I guess that nothing's impossible and everything is possible. When you lead with heart, you can do no wrong. When you're empath and you kind of like surrender to whatever's happening to you, doors open and these opportunities come. So have faith and trust in yourself. And when you do that, you can do anything is possible, And so everything I've learned from experience, because yes, I did go to college for a few years, but I didn't finish, I didn't graduate. So sometimes I say I don't have an academic background when I kind of do, because I went for like 2 or 3 years. But then it wasn't until I started working for the corporate American company. I worked for Bank of America and Chase for like 14 years. And I picked up that business side of things. That help leverage this, but it's all life experience that you take in. And I was on this podcast, it was called Artists as a Leader. And I never really saw myself as a leader, but they had stated, as we had the interview, they noticed that I have direct leadership skills. And just from my murals being out there, people are engaged by them and just, naturally, follow. And I told him, I was like, this is sometimes when this happens to us, like a bigger purpose in ourselves. And just to trust, I would like to tell other artists. And, I wasn't always this way. I wasn't politically, culturally, spiritually awakened. I didn't know much about social justice into my adult years. Even my identity, I didn't know growing up that I was a native descent or what Chicano meant, and some people frown upon you and judge you because they're like, oh, now you're Chicano, oh, now you're native. No, there's reasons behind that. And when I started painting, I then discovered that and rerouted and now I'm proud of it. And so no matter what age you are, what time you are in your life, it's never wrong to rediscover yourself and push something that you really want to do, and that's, yeah.
Thank you so much. I want to make sure that everyone, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. Raise your hand or type them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask of our 2 guests today. And I know that Lucinda here has a painting she's working on behind her. So if you have any questions about that painting or about the documentary, feel free to ask. I actually do have one more question for Lucinda. Where do you get your inspiration for your paintings? Whether it's any artists that inspire you, or things in nature, or specific colors? You have very vibrantly colored murals. I'm just curious, or is it the music you're listening to, or just does it depend on the day?
A lot of it's inspired by spirituality, my culture, my ancestors, and the colors that I use are bright colors that I notice that shift energy and the way you feel, which is, I learned more about color theory because I didn't really know what color theory was until another AAC professor actually, hey, can I pick your brain about color theory? And I'm all, what's that? I was just kind of like doing it what I felt, and I noticed that there is an energy shift. So that's why I use like the turquoise, the pinks, and the oranges. I even painted one side of my house a bright orange because it really changes the mood in the house. And so I apply that to my paintings. And then yeah, with my imagery, my images is, it's regarding like immigration. There was a lady that I met at Kino Border Initiative. She was, her name was Lupita. She was a cook in the back and she was serving the migrants. My peer, Sam Gomez, had taken a picture and I wanted to paint that. I wanted to paint her story, so I painted that. Another painting was of a little boy that was there with his mom. They were detained, but then by Border Patrol, and they were let go. And they ended up at that shelter to get some food. And he took that picture. And again, I asked for it. And then I painted him. And I painted with birds in his hand and then the strings hanging from his hand, because there's a women's shelter that's there in Nogales where once they have 2 weeks, they're allowed 2 weeks to stay in the shelter before they have to leave, and they teach them how to make bracelets. So this is, I don't think I've ever told anybody this, but that's why I wear these bracelets, is because the girls that were there made them and I took them and I haven't taken them off since, because I kind of want to carry them on with me because I'm never going to forget what they went through. And so that inspired me to even push the art that I'm doing, the mural. I'm gonna cry. Her story, she was 19 years old, and her story was really hard for me taking, because she crossed by herself and she was actually kidnapped. Yeah, and then from being kidnapped, given to, the Gayote gave her to the gang, and then she escaped, and then she had no water, no nothing. By the time she got crossed over, Border Patrol detained her. But when they detained her, they chained her up and she couldn't breathe. And so when she's telling me the story, she's sitting in front of me crying so hard. And this was like a few days ago this happened. I'm like sitting in my chair, like wanting to cry, but they asked us not to cry. I'm like, how could you hold that in? And so that story I carry with me, and in the work that I do. So yeah, some of these paintings are personal stories, and that's where I get my inspiration from, because I want to put people in their shoes, because there's so many that are not there in that room where I was at and see actually what's happening, because not everything's told to you. You think, the Border Patrol was doing this and that, but no, there's a lot that people do not know what they're doing, what is not right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredibly powerful the way that your work deals with this very painful subject matter, but you're able to make it a healing process by involving the community in it. And it's just so beautiful to see how this pain can, transform into something beautiful. And, I see so many people in the video working with you on the mural. Like, I don't know if your family works with you, but friends and other people involved. And it's wonderful to see just, all together as a group working through this pain.
Yeah.
And it's really wonderful.
Yeah, so lots of community, that close to the comunidad, we like to do community murals. So we'll invite the community to come in and paint with us. And yeah, sometimes I put my kids to work. I got 3 of them, so they got to do some.
Are any of them interested in becoming artists?
No, they're not. I really wish. I mean, my daughter is taking, she has school from home. She's on Zoom and all day long, and she has art class. And I'm like, really? Like, what is your teacher teaching you? Let me see. I was like, you know what? Let me take over. Tell her who your mom is. I was like, let me do your homework for you.
No, don't do that.
She did. And so I got her like sketch pad. I went to Hobby Lobby and I got her everything. And she used it? No. So I was like, oh, my art was broken. We only collaborated once so far.
Well, does anyone from the group have any questions? This is your last opportunity to ask any questions you might have. And feel free to reach out to us at the museum. I also want to remind everyone to come and see the film if they want to see it in person at the museum. It's free and open to the public, and it'll be on view until Saturday at 5 p.m. Okay, if there are no more questions, I want to thank both of you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedules. It's wonderful to have this included in the series, and we hope you get a chance to see it before it ends this week.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thanks,
Well,
Rudy.